film starts in Central Africa, in a camp controlled by an armed group. At that time, a group of mercenaries is getting ready to attack the camp, and soon a gunfight breaks out between the two groups. The mercenaries, who were thugs, manage to take down their target, and the leader of the enemy group is defeated. Meanwhile, one of the mercenaries named Max faces two enemies by himself. Using a dagger, Max is able to defeat both of them. After their victory, all the mercenaries, led by Leclerc, gather together. There, Leclerc tells his team that they need to attack more camps in the coming days to earn more money. Sometime later, the mercenaries are in Iraq for their second attack. Max, one of the best in the group, walks alone and takes a position on a small hill with his rifle to protect his team from a distance. After a while, a bomb suddenly explodes and the mercenaries begin their attack. In the middle of the battle, Max's teammate, Magpie, gets attacked by an enemy, but Magpie quickly defeats them with a few shots. Meanwhile, Max helps his teammates from afar until he hears that an enemy is trying to escape. Soon after, Max moves quickly and stops the enemy from fleeing, taking them down on the hill where he's positioned. Afterward, Max heads towards a mosque to attack the enemy group. Several people try to fight him, but with his fighting skills, Max defeats them in no time. Suddenly, a large man attacks Max and starts choking him. Refusing to give up, Max grabs his dagger and takes down the attacker in front of him. After Max and his group successfully defeated the enemy, Leclerc told Max and the others about the payment for the mission they just completed. A few days later, they head to their new target in Colombia. Max and his friends are hired to attack a drug cartel camp that is about to deliver drugs to its customers. Slowly, the mercenaries approach the cartel's base hidden in the forest. Once the commander gives the signal, Max and his teammates start taking down all the cartel members. During the battle, an innocent woman appears, making Max hesitate to shoot. At that moment, a bomb explodes and the woman runs away. One of Max's teammates sees this and chases after her. Max follows and sees his teammate trying to harm the woman. Without a second thought, Max punches his teammate, as he hates how his friend is treating the woman badly. The two mercenaries start fighting until Max gets cornered. Meanwhile, the woman finds a grenade and sets it off, causing Max to lose consciousness from the blast. Soon after, the mercenaries gather after winning the battle, and Max's teammate, who had hurt Max, tells the commander that Max is dead. However, Leclerc doesn't believe this and orders everyone to search for Max, as he is important for every mission. During the search, they only find his rifle, and since time is running out, Leclerc and the others decide to leave, thinking Max is dead. A few hours later, Max, who is still alive, wakes up with a neck injury from the explosion. Using the last bit of his energy, Max walks until he reaches a village. Soon after, an old man finds Max and takes him to his home. When Max wakes up, the old man introduces himself as Elias, who had helped Max. Elias also gives Max clothes and treats the wound on his neck. Elias then takes Max on a tour around the village and brings him to the church. After Max helps Elias clean the church, he invites Max to join him for dinner. Unfortunately, Max can't speak due to his neck injury, so he writes his name on a piece of paper. During their conversation, Elias believes that meeting Max was not a coincidence. The next day, Max cleans the house and finds a rifle. Elias, who sees him, explains that it belonged to a priest who had passed away. The priest used to hunt animals and share the meat with the villagers. Elias then invites Max back to the church for a mass. Max listens to Elias' sermon during the service. That night, they have dinner with Father Tiago. The following day, Tiago tells Elias that he's suspicious of Max because of his scary appearance. Elias tries to explain to Tiago that, although Max looks intimidating, he believes Max is a good person. After talking with Tiago, Elias decides to give Max a priest's robe so that people won't be afraid of him because of how he looks. One day, a frightened woman runs into the church, asking Max for help, thinking he is a priest because of his appearance. When Tiago sees this, he tells the woman that Max isn't a priest and invites her inside to help her. Not long after, a few men dressed like cowboys enter the church, looking for the woman from before. Max stays silent as the men threaten him, demanding to know where the woman is. They also rudely ask him for food, so Max goes to the kitchen to get some for them. There, Tiago tells Max that they need to get rid of these men, and Max decides to take control of the situation. Calmly, Max brings the food to the men. The men start mocking him, even saying that he smells bad. Despite their insults, Max stays calm until the men eventually get tired and leave the church. Seeing that, Elias is pleased with how Max handled the situation. The next morning, during Mass, Elias stands at the pulpit and says he wants to introduce someone he trusts. Tiago proudly thinks it's him, but to everyone's surprise, especially Tiago's, Elias says Max's name instead. Elias shares how proud he is of Max for facing the bandits, who were part of a drug cartel, without using violence. In the middle of Elias's sermon, two bad men come back to the church to take the woman who is now attending the Mass. Max stops them and tells the bandits to stop being bad people. The men laugh at Max and try to attack him, but he quickly takes them down with just a few moves. Defeated, the bandits leave the church. Max then apologizes to Elias for being rough in front of everyone. Surprisingly, the people actually think Max was very brave, and they even ask him to teach them some self-defense techniques to fight off bandits. Later, while Max is chopping wood, Elias asks him to teach the villagers how to protect themselves. Max is unsure at first, but after Elias reminds him that people should help each other, Max agrees to teach the villagers self-defense. Meanwhile, the bandits who were beaten by Max go to meet their boss, who turns out to be Max's former commander, Leclerc. They tell him about a priest who defeated them. When they see a photo of the mercenaries Leclerc once led, the bandits realize that the priest who beat them is actually Max. Leclerc then tells his men that Max was one of his soldiers who died in battle. However, they never found Max's body, so Leclerc doesn't believe his men. He also thinks that if Max really fought the bandits, they would be dead because Max was known for being very ruthless. The scene shifts to Max, who is teaching the villagers how to fight. Tiago approaches Max and asks him about his past, while also apologizing for misjudging him. Max doesn't mind because he knows that he has made many mistakes in the past. Sometime later, Leclerc arrives at the church and is shocked to see that Max is still alive and has become a priest. Leclerc tells the other priests about Max's dark past, how he killed many people, including women and children, and that Max was the best killer in their mercenary team. Leclerc is angry because Max beat up two of his men, and he plans to punish the village by attacking it. Elias tries to negotiate with Leclerc to prevent the innocent villagers from getting hurt. Unfortunately, Leclerc refuses unless Max agrees to leave with him. Not wanting anyone in the village to suffer, Max decides to leave the church and go with Leclerc. While packing his things, the priests try to convince Max to stay, reminding him that he has changed and is now a better person than he was in the past. They point out how he chose to help the woman earlier. Touched by their words, Max decides to stay at the church instead of leaving. Even though Max decides to stay at the church, he still goes to meet Leclerc to settle their problem. When Max arrives at the base, he meets his old friends who laugh at him for becoming a priest. After passing the guard's checks, Max goes in to see Leclerc, who invites him to have a meal together. Leclerc offers Max some food, but Max refuses, saying he's not hungry. Max then asks why Leclerc called him there. Leclerc says he wants Max to rejoin the mercenaries. Max agrees, but on one condition: Leclerc and his group must promise not to harm the villagers. Leclerc agrees to this, promising not to hurt innocent people. However, as soon as Max leaves, Leclerc orders his men to get rid of Max. When Max returns to the church, he tells Elias that he has to leave to keep everyone safe. At the same time, Leclerc and his men arrive and start beating Max, eventually nailing him to a cross. The bandits also begin shooting at the priest's house. After some time, Max manages to free himself from the cross and is helped by the priests who are still alive. Elias and the other priests quickly rescue Max and take him to a safe place. The next day, Max wakes up and is shocked when Elias tells him about the people who were hurt in Leclerc's attack and how the village church was destroyed. Elias says they plan to rebuild the church, but Max warns them not to, as the bandits might kill them. Tiago then reveals that the villagers are being forced to work for the bandits or be killed. Max feels guilty about what happened and decides to save the villagers. Knowing this, Tiago gives Max a rifle and Max begins training hard to face the bandits. One day, some bandits find Elias's hideout in the forest. Being kind, Elias offers them food, but instead, the bandits shoot Elias without mercy. When Max returns to the hideout, he is devastated to see that the priest who saved him has been killed by the bandits, and he swears revenge. Without wasting time, Max puts on his priest's robe and grabs his rifle. Meanwhile, some bandits enter a bar, not realizing that Max is watching them from a distance. Max loads his rifle and starts shooting. Afterward, he walks into the bar and fights the bandits until they are all defeated. Calmly, Max approaches the bartender and drinks the beverage served to him. As Max leaves the bar, a few men approach him, but Max easily defeats them as well. Leclerc soon hears about Max killing some of his men and, feeling angry, orders Magpie to get revenge on Max. A while later, 2 cars full of bandits follow Max. When they reach the town, Max suddenly surrenders his rifle and raises his hands, confusing the bandits. But then, Max surprises them by attacking the bandits one by one. When more bandits arrive, he sets a trap to defeat them all. Not long after, Leclerc arrives with more of his men. At the same time, Magpie notices a cross on one of her teammates' collars. When she pulls it, a grenade explodes, killing her. On the other side, Max keeps shooting at Leclerc's group. To stop Max, Leclerc offers a reward to any of his men who can bring him Max's head. Leclerc and his men arrive at a bar, where they plan their revenge on Max. Meanwhile, Max suddenly shows up in front of Leclerc's men, pretending to surrender. When Leclerc hears about it, he orders his men to kill Max right away. While Max is being taken to Leclerc's base in a car, the bandits inside try to attack him. Using his fighting skills, Max defeats all the bandits and manages to get out of the car. Max then grabs a grenade launcher and shoots one of his old comrades who almost killed him in the past when they were still mercenaries. Soon after, Max faces another one of Leclerc's men who attacks him. Their fight is intense, but in the end, Max wins by hurting his opponent multiple times until he is dead. When Max enters Leclerc's room, he manages to shoot his former commander in the stomach. However, Leclerc refuses to give up and grabs a katana to attack Max. The two begin fighting, and at one point, Max is cornered. Not willing to give up, Max fights back and eventually kills Leclerc. At the end of the film, Max is shown leaving Leclerc's base and returning to the church. Tiago, who sees all that Max has been through, suggests that Max enjoy and live a normal life. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is don't mess with your old boss, or you might end up fighting katanas in a bar. Also, if you survive, maybe try living a peaceful life at a church instead of taking down bad guys.